I'm Bill Koch, and I'm the president and dean of the Nashville School of Law, and I'm delighted to have with me today three members of our third-year class of law students, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what life as a third-year student at NSL is all about. And why don't we start with you, Tony, and just introduce yourself and tell you how you got to the Nashville School of Law, and then we'll just go around the table.
Okay, I'm Tony Myers, and I'm from Franklin, Tennessee, and I fell in love with law when I was actually on the other side of the law. I'm a convicted felon. I was convicted in 2015 for a crime I did in 2012, and I had an attorney that did my defense work for free, and he was so gracious and kind and loving, and he just walked me through a very scary process. And his name is Bill Ramsey, and I thought, man, if I ever get a chance to treat somebody like he's treated me, I'm going to do it. So about 4 years later, I'm reading the New York Times on a Sunday afternoon in February 2019. It's an article about a guy named Bruce Riley who murdered somebody and went to prison, and he ended up getting out and going to Tulane Law School, and now passed the bar and very productive citizen, which led me to research more people. And so I researched this man named Sean Hopwood, who robbed a dozen banks, went to prison. And I don't know what you write when you're in prison, but he wrote like maybe briefs or releases or something that actually went before the Supreme Court. And it was very similar to my crime. I was convicted of theft. And so I reached out to him and he said, go for it. So that led me to interview some local attorneys and a judge, and even met with our own governor, and they overwhelmingly said, go to Nashville School of Law. It's perfect for you. And so despite my doubts of whether I'd even be able to get in, I'd done enough research, started studying for the LSAT, and my wife thought I was crazy, but here I am now.
Well, that's great. Drew?
Really sure. Yes, sir. My name is Drew Vernon. I'm from Greenfield, Tennessee, and kind of opposite of Tony. I was a municipal police department officer at the city of Martin for 9 years. In that capacity, I was a patrol officer and an investigator for 5 years. And in 2018, 2019, a spot came open at the district attorney's office in Weakley and Obion County as a criminal investigator. So I took that opportunity, and I've been working there since. And one of my roles in my job is circuit court. We have a court docket, an action docket book, and I keep up with that and kind of keep cases moving along and getting officers lined up for motions and hearings and things like that. And anyway, I got to go in, and about a year in it, I thought to myself, this is really interesting. I never considered law school really before I was in court and getting to experience it. So started looking into it. My cousin, he's a 4L, and started talking to him here at Nashville, and it just worked out perfect with my job, and I have a really understanding wife and children that are okay with me being gone a lot more than I should be. But anyway, I took the plunge, and here we are today.
Great. Awesome. Emily?
I'm Emily Bain. I'm from Murfreesboro. My parents are all PhDs in psychology, so originally I thought that I was going to follow their tradition and go get my PhD in psychology. I took one class and I hated it. It was not for me. So I had a family friend who was an attorney, and he invited me to go to court with him. And when I was in court, I just knew this is for me. This is how I want to help people with the skills that I have. So I started working at a law firm, and I didn't want to stop working because I was gaining so much firsthand experience. I was learning it on a different level than what you learn in a textbook. So I started researching and looking at all the options in Tennessee, and NSL just fit the best. It was going to give me this exceptional legal education while continuing to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your answer was so good, I'm going to follow up with another question. You are now an experienced law student. You're no longer an amateur. You're halfway done. If you had to sum up in one sentence, it can be a long sentence, but if you were to sum up what the third year has been like so far, what would you say?
We're not very far into the third year, so I don't want to jinx myself, It has been smoother than the first 2 years. In your third year, I think you know what to expect. You know what the professors expect of you and what you expect of yourself and what it's going to take to get the work done. So I think in that regard, it is a lot smoother than your first 2 years.
So the experience helps.
Right.
But now, Drew, let's go back a year. Let's go to the second year. You know, after your first year, when you thought you had everything nailed down, you hit the second year. How would you sum up your second year at law school?
Well, for me personally, and a lot of my classmates that I've talked to, the second year is definitely the most challenging conceptually with the material, and it goes. There's a lot more of it, and you have constitutional law, evidence, civil procedure, and property, and there's just a lot more coming at you at the same time. 1L is kind of broken up, crimes and constitutional criminal law. It kind of gives you a break and kind of a refresher midway through, kind of recharge your batteries. I think everybody, after Christmas, was like, oh, just a few more months, we could get through this. But just the sheer volume of material and having to digest it was the hardest to really get a smooth rhythm and flow to be, to be effective in studying and taking it all in.
Well, it's the only year where students have 4 year-long classes. You think
Right.
that's what adds to it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I think the burnout factor kind of comes into play for sure. You just have to, it's like everything else, you just have to dig deep and drive through it. 'Cause there is a light at the end of the tunnel, for sure.
Well, there's a debate about which year is the hardest, and there's a theory about why every year is the hardest. Well, you laugh, Tony. What do you think? What of your 3 years, which one's been the hardest and
Well,
why?
yes, the second year was definitely the hardest, but I'm laughing because in thinking about some of these peers of mine and that kind of thing, I've never heard a law student go, man, law school's so easy. It's just so easy. It's just hard work. And I think it has a lot to do with what you're saying. Like, the second year, it's 4 year-long courses. And there's a lot on the line because there's the midterm and there is the final. And that is a lot of pressure. No matter how you look at it, no matter how determined you are, it's a big adjustment. And the pressure there is pretty large. The curriculum is doable. The reading is doable, but it's hard. There's a lot there. But I think just that totality of the circumstances, is all of that stuff combined makes that 2L really hard. And I would agree with Emily. The third year it's not that it's necessarily smooth. I just think it's experience. And that's, you and I were talking earlier about reps. I think the more reps you have, the better you get, the more calm you are. It's still hard work, though. 3L is not easy.
I think.
I'm sorry. Please.
I think with 2L, I had tunnel vision when I was going through it, and it wasn't until the summer that I realized what just happened during 2L. And I had a second to assess it that, wow, that was a very hard year. And going through it, I realized it's difficult. It's a lot of reading. The concepts are harder. But it wasn't until the summer I really kind of broke down and saw, oh my goodness, this was really hard. But we did
I wish
it.
I would have had some of your Zen.
Oh my goodness.
Because it was hard, yeah.
Well, different students, after they get their legs here and figure out what's doing, have to figure out how to balance their time and apportion it. I know I had one student actually told me today that he's given up going to Titans games because he needs to study on Sunday. Sure. What kind of adjustments, Drew, have you made in terms of family time, work time, study time? How do you balance all that?
Well, just my background, everything is, I try to schedule everything. I'm a planner. And the weekends, Saturday and Sundays, are usually my days that, it's not all day, but depending on how much the load is. And this year, the load has been a lot lighter than last year. But, for constitutional law last year, for instance. It was so much material that I would outline the book in my notes before class and then kind of fill in the notes as we went. And that really helped me, I guess, stay ahead or stay, not ahead, but stay caught up and not fall behind. But, definitely what I would recommend, at least for me anyway, is you have to set out, sometimes 5-6 hours a weekend to really sit down and go over everything and, try to get an understanding of it before you come to class.
Well, and one of the helpful things that folks find, it's not for everybody, but a lot of students seem to find it helpful, or being part of a study group. Or Emily, have you been in a study group? Does that help? Or
About 1 month before the exams start, I collaborate with other students. That's when I start getting together with people and going over the issues that we have, our interpretation of what the rule is or what a case said. So really, a month before the exams is when I start putting time with other students. But until then, I really do everything myself. It's kind of like you said, you have to prioritize everything. And so it's not until 1 month that I really get with a group.
yeah. What about you, Tony? Do you do that, or do you have a study group, or how do you handle it?
I've been in a study group, and I'm more like Emily now. I do have 2 or 3 people in our class that I collaborate with by email, or right before our last exam, I was calling this guy. He lives in Georgia, and he drives all the way up here, and I just said, hey, what are you getting here? I wrote down in these notes here, now I'm reading it something different, and he was able to correct it. So my study group is kind of virtual.
Well, it's certainly sometimes 2 heads are better than 1, so if 2 or 3 folks
Absolutely.
are looking at something, you'll hear something, oh, yeah, I didn't catch that. So
Definitely, yeah.
Tony, if you were able to wave a magic wand and add one thing to life experience here at the school, what would you like to add?
I've just found out that you guys are kind of doing it, but before you come into 1L, it had been 35 years since I've been to school. I had no idea what to expect other than, hey, law school's hard. It's some type of aptitude test that would do 2 things. Let the school know, hey, where I am, and then let me know what to expect. That would have been a beautiful addition to my law school experience.
Well, Drew, if you could add some spice to NSL education, what kind of spice would you like to add?
That's a good question. I hadn't really thought about that one a lot. I'm kind of like Tony on there. The aptitude test coming in, because it hadn't been quite 35 years, but it'd been about
Sure.
almost 15 years since I was in college, and I'm in my undergraduate. And coming in, the orientation is helpful. Coming in and having the panels beforehand and get some firsthand experience there, but maybe. Some more, I'm gonna say one-on-one, but maybe breaking up into groups, maybe smaller groups, and having a little more, I won't say hands-on personal experience, but like with our LSB classes, and having the upperclassmen come in and maybe field a few questions. Well, some people aren't comfortable asking questions in a room of 100 people. That's something you have to get over, but it might be more welcoming to some more questions, and some people might be afraid to ask.
Emily, if you had something you'd like to add to the NSL experience, what would you like to see?
I think it would be what Tony said, but maybe before, not before orientation, but actually a class itself. That LSB 1 class is very important, and I think I took it for granted a little bit, honestly, but you need those basic elements. Like, you need to know how to brief your cases in IRAC form, and I think the first year you kind of take that for granted a little bit and forget. But just one class that teaches you all the basic things, especially how to outline. I didn't know how to properly outline until December of my first year, and you really need to know how to do it in August.
Well, I want to thank the three of you for carving out some of your time where you could be studying, but you're up here talking to us about school.
Sir.
And we appreciate that. And I hope you know too, and you've heard this not just from me, but from the staff as well, that the reason why we're here is because you all are here. And you all are doing the hard work. We're giving you all an opportunity to achieve your dreams, to change yourself into something else, and we're just very proud of what you're doing. And we do try to support you, notwithstanding what you may think from time to time, but we are on your side.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Sure.
you for
Welcome.
having us.
Thanks for
Thank you.
having us.